Chasing the stars, we'll stride into the dawn. Never back down till the battle is won. Face each foe with hearts brave and true, unafraid of the unknown, because I'll face it all with you.
Hello, I'm the reviewer. I review you. This is my partner, Mr. It. Today, we're going to be taking a look at Doggin's video of his top 7 dumbest nitpicks about Back to the Future.
Welcome to the D-List, the show where I list things and my name begins with a D. A DeLorean?
You sound like if George McFly was played by Patrick Warburton.
You know what's even stupider than that joke?
Not much.
Look, I'm not going to claim the movies are flawless. I might think it really loudly, but I acknowledge that everything made by humans has human error.
Fun fact, this is the exact reason why nothing is a 10 out of 10 for me. Because literally nothing is perfect.
If Doc takes Marty and Jennifer out of 1985 to show them 2015, shouldn't their older selves not already be in 2015? George and Lorraine and Biff weren't taken out of the time stream. They stayed in 1985 and had the chance to live over the next 30 years. But Marty and Jennifer were plucked out, so what gives? The answer is never actually explained in the movie itself, but the canonical answer given by the creators is consistent with the way time travel works throughout the trilogy. You see, the future hasn't been written yet.
As much as I love the deep lore explanation here, you can sum it up like this. Generally in time travel stories, going to the future works in one of two ways. You either got the rule that history moves on as if you disappeared, like the Teen Titans episode How Long Is Forever, or it assumes you eventually returned, like, say, Meet the Robinsons. Back to the Future uses the latter.
So when the photos start to fade, it doesn't mean that there's an entire timeline where Dave McFly is born without a head. It means that the ripple effect hasn't caught up to the future yet.
Remember that. It will be very important later.
How is George only publishing his first novel in 1985 if he was already an established local author when he was killed in 1973? Well, the movie doesn't give an answer, but I would venture a guess that, like most sci-fi writers, he wrote a lot of short stories before he wrote his first novel.
Hell, the movie even establishes him writing said short stories.
What are you writing? Stories. Science fiction stories about, visitors coming down to Earth.
Now, some people have theorized that the chicken reaction is a character trait of the Marty who grew up with a happy family, and not the Marty from the timeline that we followed in the first film. Back to the Future never tells us if, when you change timelines, your memories eventually get replaced via ripple effect with the memories of the you from that timeline.
Time for my headcanon! So this idea came to me looking at the 2010/11 video game. I theorized that in this universe, upon returning to your natural time period, you immediately become the new you of the new timeline, as shown at the end of episode 2, where Doc becomes Citizen Brown. Why didn't Marty become his alternate self? Oddly enough, I think it's a proximity thing. This is something that can actually be traced back through the game and even the movies. Going backwards, in episode 3 of the game, it's established that the alternate Marty of this timeline is out of town on some sort of mathletes trip. In episode 2, the alternate Marty was run out of town by the Tannen crime family, while Doc is unestablished. In part 2 of the movies, alternate Marty is in Switzerland while Doc got committed. I assume that the asylum he was thrown into wasn't in Hell Valley, because I doubt every town has one. This idea may feel kind of muddled in part 1, as Marty doesn't become his new self the second he returns to 1985, despite being within proximity. But remember, he still hasn't technically returned to his proper time period yet. He's still in the past. 10 minutes into the past, but still. By the time he returns to his proper time, his other self has disappeared into 1955. Thus, he never melds with his new self. Sorry. I know that was a bit of a tangent. I just really wanted to get that out there.
Why doesn't Doc invent a fuel source?
Okay, so Doggins added chapters to the YouTube video to separate the numbers, which is good, but he called this one, Why Doesn't Doc Vent? I hurt.
A trickier question is why they didn't siphon the gas out of the other DeLorean that he boarded up for Marty and 55 Doc to find.
Actually, there is an answer to that, which, oddly enough, I came across on the 25th Anniversary Edition DVD. According to the FAQ on the bonus disc, before putting any car into storage for an extended time, like, say, 70 years, it's a good idea to empty all liquids from the vehicle or risk damaging the parts. In short, Doc couldn't cipher the gasoline from the DeLorean because he already drained it.
Is this really that confusing to anyone? Because it's really pretty simple. The ripple effect just hadn't yet caught up to 2015 when Biff left 1955.
That's right, Bernie! It's the ripple effect!
In Back to the Future, even though traveling through time is instantaneous, it takes time for changes in the time stream to take effect.
I don't know. The franchise seems to play fast and loose with this all the time. Sometimes it takes it a while to take effect, other times it's instantaneous. Which one's which really seems to depend on the will of the writers.
Ryan North described this as meta-time in his excellent riff review blog on the Back to the Future novelization, and while the actual amount of time it takes for changes in the time stream to take effect is a bit unpredictable, Ryan might have actually figured out the mathematical formula for it, which is really damn impressive.
I was interested in checking that, but apparently the blog post doesn't exist anymore.
Why don't George and Lorraine notice how much their son looks like Calvin Klein? Doesn't George find it suspicious that his so-called son looks a lot like his wife's high school boyfriend? This one is just so stupid that it almost infuriates me that I still see people bringing it up.
I blame Family Guy.
I'm talking about the fact that our son, who you insisted we name after that guy Marty, looks exactly like him.
But let's just suppose that they do remember what Calvin looks like. They remember the contextless face of 17-year-old Marty McFly that they met 30 years ago. But when they look at Marty in 1985, they're not seeing the contextless face of 17-year-old Marty McFly. They're seeing their son.
Not gonna lie, that is a concept that I hadn't considered, but it's a fascinating one.
They're seeing every memory of him as a baby, him as a toddler, him as a 5-year-old.
Him setting fire to the living room rug.
Maybe they noticed at some point that he kind of resembled the guy they hadn't seen in 30 years.
And who's to say they even care? They might have just written it off as a funny coincidence. This video was fun. At the time of its release, you couldn't throw a rock on the internet without hitting a video deconstructing all these so-called problems. Hell, you still can't really. So it's nice to see one that actually comes to the defense of these perceived plot holes. I'm the reviewer. Great Scott.